Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you a plugin I've been using for years now. It's called Bitspeek and it's by Soniccharge. It's kind of like a speak and spell audio effect that you can process your vocals through and create like robotic lo-fi sounds or even create kind of vocodery type of sounds. Alright, so we're in Ableton Live, so I've loaded up a single instance of Bitspeek, and again it's an audio effect, so I've loaded it on an audio track, and the other track has this microphone running through it. So right now it's bypassed, so this is what my voice sounds like going straight through. And then if I enable Bitspeek with all the default settings, so this is my voice before.
This is my voice after. So you can tell already it's got this kind of lo-fi robotic-ish type of sound.
All right, so let's go over the parameters on the plugin here. So on the top left here, we have a sample rate, which goes from 8 kilohertz all the way up to 44 kilohertz. And this is the sample rate at which the audio is being sampled and processed. And this is independent of the sample rate you have set in your DAW.
So this is 22. Hello, test 1, 2. This is 11, much more lo-fi. And this is 8, where we're getting almost like a old broken radio. And if I go to 44, you can see it's nice and clean. And 22, so the difference between 22 and 44 is very subtle.
Next to that, we have a frame rate setting, and this is the frame rate at which kind of the buckets of time are being analyzed as your voice is going through. And again, the more you go down, the more kind of stuttery the effect becomes, all the way to getting to 0. If you go to stop, it actually kind of freezes it in time.
So this is the full frame rate. You get kind of a smoother sound. And as I go down, you can see the value there in hertz. Hello, test 1, 2, test. Test 1, 2.
So I'm just saying test 1, 2, and you can see it getting more stuttery. Test 1, 2.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2.
And next to that, related to frame rate, is you can set the sync on, which will sync it to your DAW's clock. And then the frame rate becomes a matter of time intervals instead of hertz.
So if I turn that on, you can see that just.
So what's cool about this plugin is that you can have MIDI notes change the characteristic of the pitch. So almost getting like close to a vocoder effect. And if you turn MIDI on, a bunch of different MIDI parameters become available, like the pitch of the keyboard, the note on off will kind of gate the signal. You can use the pitch mod wheel as well. So when you turn on MIDI, as you can tell right now, the sound is silent. So it's waiting for me to input some MIDI. So this is where you have to kind of route things a little bit. So I've created a separate MIDI channel here in Ableton Live, and I've armed both for recording so that I can use my MIDI controller here. And then for the routing, I just set it to route to this audio track, and then you can see that Bitspeek appears here. So you have to use kind of 2 tracks depending on your DAW to send MIDI from one to the other, because it's an audio effect, not a MIDI effect. So, but with this setup now, when I press a key and talk, you're gonna hear the voice being presented.
Hello, this is a test. This is a test. This is a test. Test, test, test.
Very exciting demo, as you can tell. We'll do something more musical towards the end, but I just want to go through the plugin for now.
Hello, 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 hello.
If you set tracking to 0 while MIDI is on, you'll get more kind of perfect tracking of the notes you play.
La, 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 la.
So the pitch will affect the pitch of the output audio, so you can go pitch it down.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. From 36 semitones down, or 3 octaves, all the way up. And then as I'm speaking like this, you can hear my voice going up.
Tracking, as we briefly saw, determines how much of the internal kind of analysis gets applied to the pitch.
So if you set it to 0, you get no pitch. So you get a monotonous tone regardless of how you sing.
So if you set it to 100%, you're getting kind of ideal tracking, but then you can also exaggerate it here
and get some weird tracking like this, where things get a lot weird and a lot.
All right, next to that, we have detune. So there's actually a second oscillator that's part of the synthesizer that's built in, and detune will offset that so you can create kind of a richer, fatter sound this way.
If you increase it, you can hear we're getting kind of like a chorusy thing going. And of course, you can exaggerate it and go crazy here.
Next to that, we have noise. So this sets the balance between the voiceless and the voiced modes. So practically speaking, the more you increase this, the more you get like a whispery kind of noisy sound.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. And at 100%, it's almost all like a really loud whisper. Versus if you bring it down, then you get purely oscillator without any of the kind of breathy characteristics.
And then finally, we have a mix knob, which is self-explanatory. It's just a wet dry. So if I set it to 0, it's like nothing is happening. And then if I increase it, you can kind of blend in the robotic sound. All right, so those are the basics. So now let's do some demos and see if we can make some little beats just so you can hear it. One cool thing is obviously MIDI. So like I showed you before, if you set tracking to 0 and turn MIDI on,
then we get this crazy sound.
And of course you can record this and have your MIDI be synced and everything. So I'm just gonna record a short loop.
These trees are all, these trees are all, these trees are all.
And if you don't like the audio, you can obviously substitute the audio, but keep the MIDI there as was before.
I'm gonna increase the reverb. I'm gonna increase the reverb.
Another cool thing you can do with MIDI is if you set the frame rate to 0, the sync is off and MIDI is on. Every time a MIDI note on message is received, it'll kind of freeze whatever the sound was at the time. So I can go ah, B, O, ba. And you can use this to create kind of cool rhythmic effects. So I'm just going to record a bit of a MIDI pattern here. And now for the audio, I'm just going to record like a breath, a long breath, and that'll get chopped up. Turn on an arpeggiator. Quantize this, apply some swing. And then we can add a bass line. Some swing on the bass.
What you going on, boo? Sing better don't sing at school. See what you gonna do, what? Stay home but from school, what?
Of course, you can exaggerate it, create some crazy effects. I'm a robot, I'm a robot, I'm a robot. I wanna be alright. Make it younger.
That's not quite right, but...
Make it younger. Think about the much from pizza. Think about the much from pizza. Think about the much from
Or if we set it to 8 kilohertz, we will not process enough samples, so we must...
We've been using vocals to process the vocal effect. But the other thing we can process is the drums.
Woo! Yeah. Oh, damn, that's funk. God damn, that's funk. Alright, let's see what happens if we turn on Bitspeek. Ooh. Let's bring down the rate. God damn, that funk. God damn, that funk. Just for fun, let's add a Bitspeek to the master channel. And of course we can mix it down so that it's not so in your face, just to add a little bit of dirt to the overall track. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Hopefully that gave you a good idea of this plugin. So yeah, it's pretty universal. So it can be like a vocoder, it can be more of like just a lo-fi, crunchy distortion type of thing, or it can be like a robot voice sounding kind of thing. It's fairly inexpensive. I think it's like 30 bucks or something. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's not something you'd probably use all the time on everything, but it's a nice little unique, quirky plugin that can give you some unique kind of flavors. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next.